Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another video. This week I want to get into defensive people. So let's talk about defensive people, whether this person's narcissistic or this person is this is just their ammo. They just kind of shut down. They bring to the table this defensive-ness, and you're really trying to understand how you can manage this, deal with the person better, communicate better with this person to get some sort of resolution. Now, if you're new to my channel and you have not already subscribed, don't forget to click the subscribe button down below and click on post notifications so you can be informed each week when I do upload a new video with a brand new topic. I will also link my new self-parenting course right here. Over the years, you guys have always asked about what is self-parenting. What do I do? If you're new to my channel and you've never heard of self-parenting before, self-parenting is essentially the process of you learning how to be healthy. What does that mean? Healthy mentally, healthy emotionally, healthy physically, spiritually, everything. So this is really the nuts and bolts of what you need to know in order to heal, in order to be emotionally strong, mentally strong, in order for you to have peace, in order for you to have happiness. So this is essentially what we were supposed to learn growing up that we didn't learn. So many people asked me about it, so I've created a course for you guys. I will link that here or in the description box down below, and you guys can check that out. But it is really what I teach all of my clients, and it's what I talk about extensively on this channel. So let's get into why people are defensive, because it will help you to understand and not take it personally when they actually do it. So number one, the biggest reason why someone is defensive is because they are feeling attacked. They don't feel good enough. They feel like they did something wrong and they have upset someone else. So that sense of really feeling attacked is going to cause a person to shut down. Now, what most defensive people will do is, as they kind of start shutting down and they get a little defensive, they're not going to own what they did. And a lot of times they're going to actually flip it on you. So this is where maybe you said something to them about something that they said or something that they did that you didn't like. And now you're going to get the laundry list of reasons of not only what you did to cause them to do what they did or say what they said, but you're also going to get the laundry list of things that you've done in the past that they don't like. And for me personally, I always use the kind of approach of what we're discussing is this topic right now. And if you would love to discuss, I would love to discuss this with you later, because clearly you're still upset about something that has happened in the past, but we can discuss that at another time, because right now we're just focusing on this topic right here. I see a lot of this happening with couples when they go to couples counseling or stuff like that, where they're just kind of going at each other. And it's really just the finger pointing and the blaming, and no one's really actually tackling one issue at a time. It's just this mess of, going back and forth and bashing each other, and this is what you did. And so someone who's defensive is really going to want to flip it, because if I flip it, then I don't have to sit in that mucky water. I don't have to sit in a space for you. I don't have to try to have empathy for you. I don't have to actually soothe myself, because now I'm making myself feel better by making you the problem. And we'll talk about all the reasons why I did what I did. Now, you could also find in this flipping where someone starts kind of even almost denying what they actually did or what they actually said. And this is really where gaslighting will come into play. The one thing with emotional abuse, and I say this to people all the time, is when you're learning gaslighting, manipulation, silent treatment, defensive, someone getting defensive, all of these different types of tactics and methods that people use to avoid pain, to avoid, dealing with their own ego and avoid dealing with having to self-soothe, right? All of these things, it's not just like a one size fits all. They're kind of like enmeshed with each other sometimes. Sometimes you're going to hear a little manipulation, then all of a sudden you're going to hear some guilt. Then you're going to get some shame, then you're going to get some gaslighting. So learning what emotional abuse is in every aspect, you'll start to learn the people in front of you, what do they really use the most of? And everyone will always use one, maybe two or three tactics the most, and that's really where they're going to play. So not everyone is going to give you the silent treatment. Not everyone is going to be, gaslighting you. But could someone be defensive and then slip into passive aggressiveness and then go into a silent treatment? Yeah, you could get a mixture of those kind of things. So understanding the person in front of you, what they're doing, what tactic they're using on you, will allow you to be able to decide, okay, which way do I maneuver this beast now, right? And so that'll allow you to have more control in these situations for you not to go down the rabbit hole with this person. So one of the other reasons why someone is defensive is because they're embarrassed. So the whole I'm not good enough really stems from the perfectionism, like I said, and the embarrassment that what they did, they know wasn't okay. And one of the biggest things is self-soothing. If you didn't learn how to self-soothe as a child, when you do something wrong, you're going to become an adult who's going to 100% use defensiveness as your drink of choice when you don't feel good, when you do mess up, when you did say something that wasn't okay. So in order to self-soothe, one of the biggest things is you have to learn how to forgive yourself. You have to learn how to be able to say, hey, look, I'm a human and I messed up, right? And that's okay. And it's not about the messing up, it's about what we do after the fact. So most of the time, it's not the actual act that really hurt someone. It could possibly be the way you carried yourself afterwards. So if I can't forgive myself, if I can't self-soothe, then I'm going to feel really embarrassed by what I did, and I'm not going to want to really sit in that embarrassment for too long. Hence, I'm going to go straight to defensiveness. Okay, so how do we deal with this person? Number one, biggest thing ever, you have got to control your emotions. Remember what I said earlier? This is about you holding on to yourself. This is about you understanding what this person is doing, not taking it personally. I think when I stopped taking things personally that people were doing, it really set me free because it allowed me to actually have more control over myself, because if I take it personally, then I'm emotionally wounded. And if I'm emotionally wounded, then I'm being triggered and I'm going to go off of that wound and that trigger, which means I'm going to be reactive. But if that person triggers me and I don't let that trigger take over, then I can decide how I want to handle it. That's always going to be the best method. So this isn't about emotion. This isn't about ego. This isn't about how dare you? How could you be defensive because of this? You can't see this. This isn't okay. It's not about any of that. It's about calmly discussing the situation with the person. One of the biggest things also, number two, do not call them out on their defensiveness. If you're dealing with someone who's defensive, telling them they're being defensive is not going to get that wall to come down. What you want to do is acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is they are apparently being overwhelmed by what it is they're feeling. So for me, I always say something like, I feel like you're getting overwhelmed in this situation. Would you like to talk about this later? So anytime there's any kind of a shutdown and I'm sensing that in that person, I just want to acknowledge that someone's shutting down. That I'm not going to say that they're shutting down. I'm not going to say that, they're getting passive aggressive or any of those things. I can feel you're getting, I can feel you're getting overwhelmed right now. Would you like to discuss this later? I'm totally happy with doing that when we've calmed down. You can even say something like that, just to kind of put the little cherry on top. Now remember, if you're dealing with the average person who's just a little toxic at times, but can see the bigger picture, has a little bit of self-awareness, then you're going to get someone who's a little bit more open to, yep, I'm getting overwhelmed. I don't want to talk about this right now. Okay. If you're dealing with someone who's toxic, you might get the same response. Yep, I don't want to talk about this right now. And they may not say I'm getting overwhelmed, but they might just say, yep, I don't want to talk about this right now. And then they're never going to bring it up again. So you can always tell a person by how they're going to respond. And that's what you want to be able to do. You want to be able to sit back, hold on to you, hear the responses that are coming forward, and be able to dictate what's next. Remember, defensiveness has a lot to do with abandonment. I'm not good enough, abandonment, embarrassment, perfectionism, low self-esteem, inability to self-soothe. That's essentially why someone's defensive. So you don't want to trigger that, but you also don't want to take the responsibility of trying to soothe that either. You want to just, like a parent would to a child, if a child's having a tantrum, you're not going to get on the floor and have a tantrum with them. You're not going to make them feel horrible because they're 4 years old and they don't know how to regulate their emotions, because they shouldn't. You're just going to hold on to yourself and do what you need to do in order for this to pass. You're going to soothe them or all of those other things, but that's not your responsibility because you're dealing with an actual adult. You're not dealing with your 4-year-old child who doesn't know any better. Even though the adult in front of you doesn't know any better, it's still not your responsibility though. So you want to learn how to hold on to yourself. What does that mean? That means that as this person is starting to break down, as this person is starting to use gaslighting, defensiveness, manipulation, etc., you're just kind of standing tall. You're seeing what's going on actually, versus being in it with someone. When you're in it with someone, then you become very reactive. When you slow down, you start to bring that level of self-awareness and consciousness to this conversation. You are way more calm, have way more control because you're witnessing everything at a slower pace. And when you can slow down and be in that state of calm, then you can choose how to start responding. And if you start getting triggered by something, because you very well could get triggered, then you deal with that trigger yourself, just like the person in front of you is trying to do, hopefully. Another great thing to practice when dealing with a defensive person is kind of show that little bit of empathy. You want to maybe look back and say, what could I have done better? Because no one's perfect. We could all do something a little bit better. So if there is something that maybe you could have done yourself, where not that we're giving this person a pass for being defensive, but you can kind of sit for a second and say, you know what? And I think I could have done this a little bit better. That's really where the great conversations come. It's kind of like when you have that argument with someone and you go silent for a day or half an hour or whatever that looks like, and then you come back and you can actually talk to each other. And this is where you both have empathy and you both listen and you both sit in a space for each other. And that's where real resolution comes from. But resolution doesn't come from two egos trying to go at it or two people who are really wounded trying to go at it. So what you're trying to do is be one of the people that is not wounded, that the ego is not at the forefront, so you can start to hopefully draw some kind of resolution from this experience. I think the calmer you are and the more you show your healthiness, again, if you're dealing with someone who's completely off the rails, no, you're not going to get anything back. But if you're dealing with someone who is just maybe a little unhealthy in these, few areas of life, and they're a little defensive at times or whatever, you'll start to slowly get this wall to fall down. Because in order to really own that I did something wrong, that means that I have to be vulnerable. And if I fear abandonment, if I don't feel good enough, if I have low self-esteem, I ain't gonna like that. It takes real strength in order to be vulnerable and own something to someone. So the more you can stay calm and kind of hold that space, you're giving that person the ability to say, look, you're not perfect, you messed up, and I still love you, I'm still here, we're still good. It's kind of like coming from more of the heart space versus the ego space. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope it helped you if you're dealing with someone who's defensive in your life. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share this with anyone who you think might benefit from this information. And I will see you next week.